Before I get into the teardown and review, to show my appreciation, I'm going to be giving away one of these multimeters. So stay tuned. More details later in the video. I feel that my YouTube channel has kind of run its course with these solar generators. I'm only going to be doing one more after this one, and then I'm kind of done with them. My channel needs to be a little more of a variety channel, I think. Go back to clusters and random stuff. But I wanted to check out this one because it's from one of the big names. Today we're looking at an EcoFlow brand, but this is one of their new River 2s, brand new on the market, I guess. Anyways, my curiosity got to me, and I want to see if one of the more better name brand units are better than some of the other ones that are out on Amazon and eBay and whatnot. This is the EcoFlow River 2 Pro. So it's supposed to have a larger inverter. They claim 800 watts continuous and 1600 peak, I guess, or they call it boost. It's supposed to handle 1600 watts boost, but they kind of imply that 1600 can be used to run larger appliances, like crock pots and whatnot. I don't know. We'll see if this can really do 1600 continuous. Then that would be impressive, because this is just a mid-size like camping unit. You know, this isn't meant to, you know, run your house in a power outage or anything. But let's check her out. This unit is supposed to charge from 0 to 100% in 70 minutes. Now, that is just through the AC, to AC charge it. Now, the solar input is only good for like 220, I think. I'll have to look at the specs. Right around 200 or 220. I see a light already back here. Oh, no, that's not a light. That's just a warning sticker. Okay, so built-in AC adapter. Good. All right. And also, this new unit is supposed to be lithium iron phosphate, which is good. It's a step up from your standard lithium ion batteries, like what you'd find in a power tool or an old laptop or something. But lithium iron phosphate can handle more cycles, and it's more stable than other battery technologies. This is a nice heavy AC cord. 14 gauge. So, no, that's not it. Okay, so there's no solar MC4 connectors, unfortunately. Just a cigarette lighter, and then just barrel to barrel. Where's the solar cables, guys? Come on. And it even came with a snack for later. Okay, first look. Here's the DC solar input, 11 volts to 50 volts DC. So with 50 volts DC, you'd want to keep an eye on your solar panels just to make sure they don't exceed to 50 volts. Most of your smaller camping style solar panels that fold up and whatever, they won't be a problem. But if you want to use a full-size solar panel, you might exceed the 50 volts. I think the manufacturer's intention with this unit would be like, say you're going on a camping trip, so an hour before you leave, you just plug it into AC and top it off. I don't think solar charge is their main focus. All right, unit came shipped in at 29%. Let's test the DC input. I've already got the DC cord. Cigar lighter, DC cord plugged in, hooked up to my power supply. So as you can see right now, we're set to 13 volts. Pretty normal automotive voltage. We'll start with that. And excuse my vice grip. I don't have a socket. I don't have a socket for the cigar lighter, but should have power. Yep, there it goes. It's starting to hunt. It's maxing out here. Let's get the power supply in view here. Yeah, so I can get both views. It MPPT, so it kind of hunts around for a little bit and tries to find its maximum pull it can get from the power source. That's a 5 amp power supply. According to the unit, we're pulling 53 watts of charge. At this rate, it looks like it's going to take 10 hours. think that's what that is. Let's see what happens when we increase the voltage. So we are hooked up on a solar panel now, let's pretend. So, yeah, it's already started hunting. See it stop pulling power when I increase the voltage. Okay, it's settled on 70 watts. This can go up to 50, so let's just go ahead and max out my power supply, which stops at 30. There it goes. It likes to settle at around 4 amps. That's probably the maximum my thin test leads can handle. I'm going to expect these to start to warm up here after a little bit. Anyways, at 30 volts, 4.2 amps, 124, 123 watts charge. Should be full in 4 hours at this rate. All right, here I just hooked up my second power supply. So we have the 30 on one, 20 on the other, 50 volts max, and it just got done hunting around and it's settled at 207 watts now. Again, I'm using kind of thin wire, a little thin for 4 amps, but there we go, 4.19, 4.17 amps going through at 50 volts. 208 watts, and I'm going to crank up the power just a little bit because we can get 50 volts coming in here. So I'm going to slowly bring this up to its max. There we go, 50 volts at the plug. Ooh, we're almost at that 220. Yeah, just about at its maximum rated claim for DC input. I think she can do it under better conditions. These are not the best conditions. Here you can hear the fan run. It's been sitting at the 200 watt DC input for a couple of minutes and the fan kicked on. Not too bad. I can deal with that. Before I begin the torture testing, I'm going to top off the battery using AC. So according to the kilowatt, we're at what, 870, right around 870 watts being pulled. According to its own meter, it's about 880, yeah, 890. So this is a fast charge for a little guy. Definitely a faster charge than the other mid-sized solar generators that I've looked at. EcoFlow had provided me with some documentation of the talking points they wanted me to include, but didn't say anything about a UPS function, and I do think this does have one. So right now I've got the test leads just set to voltage on my multimeter. Yeah, so AC output is activated. We are charging right now, but we're at 118 volts. And when I pull the cable, I do hear a click, but now we're on inverter voltage, and this is the first time one of these guys have actually been 120 volts. All of the other power solar generators that I've reviewed have only been 110 volts. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, but I do hear a relay click over, so I do think they do have a UPS function in there, because it appeared we did not lose power. And I think we should just go ahead and do the Xbox test. Okay, so the point of this test is to see if the AC can switch fast enough to not upset the Xbox. And an Xbox would be equivalent to a desktop PC as far as power supply goes anyways. So I'm going to grab the AC cord and unplug. We are unplugged, and the Xbox didn't flinch. And now I'm going to plug it back in. And then I just heard it click over and it switched back. So it can switch fast enough to be used on a desktop PC for a UPS supply. Okay, we're at 100% charge. I'm going to do just a quick inverter test before I do the battery capacity test. I just want to see if it can do the 800 watts continuous that it claims it can do. Let's set the kilowatt to watts, and we'll compare what it says the wattage draw is versus what the kilowatt says. There's usually always a little bit of a difference on the low end. It always seems like the watt meters don't like the resistive load, or they don't calculate it correctly on the lower end. Yes, right here we're at 138 watts according to the kilowatt. According to its own units, 160. It might be calculating the wattage pull on the input of the inverter, and that's why there's a little extra wattages that are disappearing there. But let's just go ahead and bump this up. We're going to get to that 800 mark and let it sit. $358, $444. I'm gonna go higher. And right around in here, I should be hitting the 600. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put my little oscilloscope on this so we can take a look at the sine wave. Now I'm ready for some load testing. So we can keep an eye on the sine wave on the left, we can keep an eye on the voltage on the right, and the wattage right down the middle. Okay, looks like everything's in view. I'm going to start the test over again. We did lose a percentage with my goofing around there from a minute ago, but we did get what, 600-700 watts out of it. I'm going to start pulling power here. 249, 240, 300. Between 350, oop, that just jumped up, 445. But the sine wave is still looking good. Voltage is locked in at 120 still. Let's bump this up. Okay, according to its watt meter, 570, 466 on this end of the outlet. Again, the 570 might be on the wattage being pulled on the battery side or the input side of the inverter. There's always going to be some loss to the inverter, but everything is still looking good. Just locked in at exactly 120 volts. That's nice. And this should get it close to its max. Okay, 7. Well, between 570 and 690, a little bit of a gap there, but you know, it's what they do. And this next step should do it. And it didn't. Oh, our voltage is starting to dip. Yep. Sine wave's still clean, but we're not at the 800 yet. Well, okay, I guess we are at 800 according to it, not according to the actual output load. We're in the 660s, and the AC is starting to show signs of struggling a little bit. I'm going to put this into high mode now. Oops. There. High. Okay. So we're over the 800. No. Yep. But the actual output is only 678. I'm going to go a little bit higher and see if we just find the limit. Ooh, look at that. We're down to 100 volts. Okay. Yep. All right, so I think we found the limit. That's where the voltage starts to dip in the 600s. And it is pulling 800 on its meter. Okay, 790, so it's kind of doing it. But man, look at that voltage dip. I'm gonna back off a little bit. Okay, we're at 100 volts. That's like anything under that, and I'd call it not in spec. Yeah, 670. So it looks to me like she starts to suffer at around the 680s, 670s. Yeah, it's already back. It's back at 100. Okay, so there we go. It is a 670 watt inverter of actual power coming out, not counting what the inverter sees. Okay. If this can start my air compressor, I'll be very impressed. But let's try it. Nope. It's flashing. Oh, it shut itself off. Well, it tried. Capacity test started. 23 seconds in. We're at 100%. And I'm pulling 470 watts. Okay, 460. There we go. 470 watts. We're just going to let this run until it's dead. There it is. Just shut off. 0%, 1 hour and 19 minutes. It averaged about 467 watts. USB-C is allowing fast charging, currently at 15 watts. The USB-A ports are working as expected. 1.8 amps at 4.9 volts. Keep in mind the USB-C port, the limitations of 15 watts is going to be because of the old phone, not because of the port. The manufacturer claims 100 watts through the USB-C port. Unfortunately, I don't have anything that can pull 100 watts through USB-C, so I can't test that. The 12 volt section DC output is 12.4 volts. They claim 3 amps per barrel jack and 10 amps total through the cigar lighter output. Currently pulling 55 watts through the 12 volt cigar lighter output without any issues. Let's take a quick look at the guts. Here's the back of the front panel board. This section here is all the USB ports. This is the DC in wire for all the DC stuff. Here's the DC output cigarette lighter, and this is the AC receptacles. They did go through the trouble of grounding it. We have a 14 gauge ground wire, and the main hot and neutral wires are a little bit thicker. They don't have a gauge printed on them, but it's possible they could be a 12 gauge. So that's nicely done. And this ground wire does continue on to the chassis, which is grounded to the AC receptacle input. So it's fully grounded from in to out. Oh, and here is the Bluetooth module for you guys that are into that kind of stuff. And a first look at the cells. And there's no printing on them that I can see at all. There are 12 cells totaled, and they are paralleled in sets, so it's a 6S battery configuration. The main battery voltage is 19.9. Cell number 1 is 3.3 volts. This is fully charged, so lithium iron phosphate is confirmed. The bidirectional inverter is in a wind tunnel with one fan. The enclosure is plastic with brass screw inserts. Let's just take a look at the app. Here on the main page is just all your front panel information, but we can dig around in the settings and we can see there's a couple things we can change. Now the X boost was already defaulted to turned on, so I will not be able to pull any more power out of the AC 120 volt receptacles. And in this section here, we can control the amount of discharge before it turns off the outputs. And it was default to 0, so I won't be able to squeeze any more battery capacity out. It was already as low as it can go, but I can go as high as 30%. So that way, when it gets to 30% charge, it shuts off the AC receptacles for you. You can continue to use the USB ports all the way down to 0. And here's a little icon that pops up anytime the discharge level has changed. So here there's the icon. If I put it back down to 0, you'll see a little icon went away. The app does have some other useful features. You can control the AC charge speed. You can control like the DC car input. So if you have a weak cigarette lighter in your car, you can back that off a little bit, 4, 6 to 8, or 8 amps. And you can also control the timeouts. Like the unit default is set to never timeout. And an important one would be the AC timeout. If you wanted to use this as a UPS supply, now default was set to 6 hours, but you would want to set that to never if you depend on the AC outputs to always be on. And now it's time for my opinion. Keep in mind, I'm not an expert on these things, I'm just a hobbyist, but I do find it fascinating that you can make your own electricity at home, store it, and use it. The build construction was fine. I wasn't blown away, but I also wasn't disappointed. So I just say the construction is adequate. This is still a very new solar generator. They're just coming out on the market, and I haven't seen any big price drops yet, and that probably ain't going to happen for a while. But I am very much a price shopper. I like to look at the competition, see what else is out there, compare the two, and see what's the best value. Currently, right now, this is available at MSRP, which is $599, and that is going to be a little bit more expensive than other not quite as well-known name brands on Amazon for something that looks to be similar, but that's the thing. I'll talk about the specs and the numbers. So, real world, I was able to get 614 watt hours out of this, and as far as the inverter power, I was able to get a good, reliable 600 watts at 120 volts, nice and clean. I was able to squeak out 800 briefly, but the voltage dipped to 88 volts. Once you get over 600, the voltage starts dropping. And that's pretty similar. So like this is a comparable unit, which is currently cheaper, but there's a reason for that. This unit, I was only to get a real world 419 watt hours, so EcoFlow is a good 200 watt hours more. The inverter was rated for 700. Of course, it didn't hit that. I was able to get a good 600 out of this. So they have comparable inverter powers. Well, 600 with this one, it's pretty much done. 600 with this one, it will go over 600. You just start to sacrifice voltage, and it kind of starts to fall apart at that point. But the solar input on this maxes out at 28 volts, and it's only good for 120 watts. Where the EcoFlow, it's good for 100 more watts of solar charge, and the voltage max is 50 instead of 28. So with this, you have more options to use bigger, better solar panels. And it's 220 watts charge instead of 120. So you definitely are getting more for your money. And the app that works with this unit could be a deal breaker. You're able to access settings that other units just don't have. And depending on how you want to use this, some of those settings are pretty important. And before I forget, I did test the AC fast charge from 0% to 100%. They claim it can be done in 70 minutes at 940 watts. I was not able to get that. I got 91 minutes at around 475 watts, and it did bump up to like 890 watts. But I did my testing directly after a 100% to 0% discharge at a pretty high wattage. So it was hot, the fan was going, and it was thermal throttling itself. So I think in perfect conditions, when it's cool and not just got done running a heavy load, it probably could do the 70 minutes from 0% to 100% on AC charge. But for me in the real world, it was an hour and a half. So still fast. Not that big of a deal, really, I don't think. but I just thought I would throw that in there. So my conclusion is, once you start seeing price drops or promotions or bundle deals, this is going to be a really good value. And I'm going to work with the manufacturer to see if I can get some discount links down below. So make sure to check the description or the pinned comment for discounted links. Now, if you're here for the giveaway, oh, before I forget, these also have a 5-year warranty. I don't see too many other manufacturers offering a 5-year warranty on their little power stations. So if you also find it fascinating to make your own power at home or make power in places where maybe there isn't power lines, this is a good unit to consider. Now, about the giveaway. If you want to win the free multimeter, just let me know down below. You'll have 2 days. That's when I'm going to select a winner. You must be from the lower 48 states, and it's going to be 100% completely free. I will not ask you to pay for anything, or you won't have to pay for shipping. And that is it. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Click the link in the description and use my code VT55UOKT and get an extra 5% discount on River 2 Pro and River 2 Pro with 220-watt solar panel bundle, valid until May 3rd, and get a free River 2 Pro bag and huge eco credits between April 3rd through the 9th.